The scent of grilled vegetables and sizzling meat filled the crisp afternoon air as I set the picnic table in the park. The sun filtered gently through the trees, casting golden speckles on the blanket where my sons, Jacob and Will, were setting up the portable grill. They were laughing, tossing playful jabs at each other, their easy camaraderie filling the air with warmth. I stood back for a moment, watching them. My boys, Will, at 26, had always been the steady one, level-headed, protective and natural leader. Jacob, for years younger, was the wild spark of energy, the one who found adventure in everything. Their father, George, spent most of the year away at the polar station, working tirelessly in the vast, frozen silence. It had been that way for as long as I could remember, and while I had long since accepted it, my boys had taken it upon themselves to fill his absence with their presence. Saturdays were ours. They always had been. Jacob nudged Will with his elbow. Bet I can get the steaks done faster than you. Will smirked. Bet you burn them first. I chuckled as Jacob rolled his eyes and started flipping the meat with exaggerated precision. Just then Mia arrived, Jacob's girlfriend of 2 years. She was beautiful, no doubt, with sleek dark hair and striking eyes, but her moods were as unpredictable as the wind. I had always been there for Jacob, offering him advice, comforting him through the inevitable storms. It hurt me to see him walk on eggshells around her, so eager to please, so willing to bend. "Hey, Mrs. Carter," she said with a tight smile. "Nice day for a barbecue." "It really is," I replied, smoothing the tablecloth. "Glad you could make it." She nodded, but her gaze was already on Jacob, arms crossed as she examined his cooking. "Did you season them right this time?" she asked. Jacob, ever patient, simply smiled. "Of course." Will shot me a glance but said nothing. He had never been fond of Mia, though he kept his opinions to himself for Jacob's sake. As we ate, conversation flowed easily, filled with stories from their week, ridiculous childhood memories and laughter. It was during dessert, as I passed around slices of homemade apple pie, that Will cleared his throat. "Mom," he said, leaning forward, "Jacob and I have been thinking." "That's dangerous," I teased, making them both laugh. "No, seriously," Jacob jumped in. "We were talking and we think you need a break. A real one. Not just a day in the park." I raised a brow. "And what exactly do you mean?" Will grinned. "A trip, Mom. A proper vacation." "To Italy," Jacob added, eyes twinkling. "To Capri." I blinked. "Capri. We know you've always wanted to go," Will said. "You talk about it every time you see some travel show about the Amalfi Coast." My heart clenched. It was true. I had dreamed of those bright blue waters, the rugged cliffs, the slow, sun-drenched days. But a trip like that? I can't just— "Yes, you can," Jacob interrupted. "And you will." Will nodded. "We've already looked into flights. We'll go together, the three of us. Just like old times." Emotions swelled in my chest, catching me off guard. My boys. My wonderful, thoughtful boys. "Say yes, Mom," Jacob urged. I exhaled, a slow smile forming. "Yes." Mia's smile faded the moment Jacob mentioned the trip. It was barely noticeable at first. A small tightening of her lips, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. But I caught it. "You didn't tell me you were planning a trip," she said, her voice deceptively light. Jacob rubbed the back of his neck. "It was kind of last minute. Will and I thought it would be good for Mom to finally get some time to relax." Mia's gaze flickered between him and Will. "And it didn't cross your mind to invite me?" Jacob hesitated, clearly caught off guard. "It's just a family trip, Mia. Something for the three of us." Mia let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Right. Because heaven forbid you go anywhere without your mother." The air around the table stiffened. Will set down his fork, his expression unreadable, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Jacob, always the peacekeeper, leaned forward. "Come on, Mia. You know it's not like that." "Do I?" she shot back, crossing her arms. "Because honestly, sometimes I wonder. It's always about them. Your mom, your brother. It's like I don't even exist." I shifted uncomfortably. I had never wanted to come between them, but I had seen moments like this before. The way she would push, demand more than Jacob was willing to give. And Jacob, being who he was, would always try to appease her. But now he just sighed. "We're leaving in 2 weeks," he said, his voice steady but tired. "I really hope you can be happy for me, for us." Mia stared at him for a long moment before standing abruptly. I hope you and your perfect little family have a great time. And with that she walked off, her heels clicking against the pavement. Will let out a low whistle. That went well. Jacob exhaled, dragging a hand down his face. She'll cool off. She didn't. Over the next week, the tension between them escalated. The calls turned into arguments, the messages into accusations. By Friday, the fight had reached its breaking point. You love your mom more than you love me, Mia had screamed over the phone, loud enough that even I in the next room had heard. And then, just like that, they were over. Jacob took it harder than he let on. He pretended to brush it off, but I saw the way he lingered in his thoughts, the way his usual energy was dulled. Will, ever the older brother, didn't push him to talk about it. Instead, he did what he always did, found ways to keep Jacob distracted. And soon enough, with our trip approaching, there was no time to dwell on breakups. 2 Sundays later, the morning of our departure, I woke up to the scent of fresh coffee and the sound of my sons moving around the house. Are you two seriously this excited? I teased as I walked into the kitchen. Still in my robe, Will grinned. We've been waiting for you to wake up. We have something for you. Jacob pulled out a sleek black box from behind his back. A little something for the trip. I took the box, raising a brow before carefully untying the ribbon. Inside, a pair of elegant Saint Laurent sunglasses nestled against black velvet. Jacob, Will. I trailed off, running my fingers lightly over the designer frame. These are beautiful. There's more, Will said, his excitement barely contained. Jacob handed me another package, this one wrapped in crisp white paper. Inside was a stunning red swimsuit, stylish, elegant, and daring. For when we hit the beaches in Capri, Jacob said with a smirk. I laughed, shaking my head. You two spoil me. Will slung an arm around my shoulder. Only the best for our favorite lady. I squeezed both of them in a hug, overwhelmed by their thoughtfulness. A few hours later, as our flight took off, I watched the city fade below us, my boys on either side of me. Despite everything, Mia's anger, the chaos of preparing for the trip, there was nothing but excitement in the air. For the first time in a long time, I felt weightless. And Capri was waiting. Capri welcomed us with open arms. The island was everything I had imagined. Rugged cliffs cascading into turquoise waters, sun-drenched terraces covered in blooming bougainvillea, the scent of sea salt and lemon groves lingering in the air. From the moment we stepped off the ferry, I felt something shift inside me. The weight of everyday life, of responsibilities, of being the one who always took care of things, melted away under the Italian sun. Will and Jacob had planned everything to perfection. Our mornings were spent lounging on sunbeds along the Marina Piccola, the waves lapping at the shore in a soothing rhythm. Will, always the adventurer, convinced us to rent a boat and explore the hidden grottos around the island. Jacob, ever the food enthusiast, made sure we ate our way through every charming trattoria, insisting that I try just one more bite of ravioli caprese. And then there were the evenings, long, golden hours spent watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of pink and violet. We laughed more than we had in years, sharing stories and memories that reminded me just how lucky I was to have them. It was on our 4th night that Will suggested the disco. Come on, Bianca, he teased, nudging me as we finished dinner on a terrace overlooking the sea. You used to love dancing. I raised a brow at him, amused. Used to? Jacob smirked. Sounds like a challenge, Mom. All right, fine, I said, finishing the last sip of my wine. But if we're doing this, I'm showing you both how it's really done. The club was tucked away in a hidden corner of the island, a place buzzing with energy and the soft glow of neon lights. Music pulsed through the air as we stepped inside, the rhythmic beats instantly igniting something inside me. It had been years since I'd been on a dance floor, but the moment I let the music take over, I felt free. Jacob and Will stood at the bar, watching with amused expressions as I moved, my body swaying to the beat. I could see them out of the corner of my eye, their drinks in hand, smiling at me in that way only my boys could. They weren't my little boys anymore, they were men, standing in this space with me, sharing this moment as equals. When I returned to the bar, breathless and laughing, Jacob handed me a drink. You're putting everyone else to shame out there, he said with a grin. Will nodded. I think we've been underestimating you, Bianca. I blinked, caught off guard. They had never called me that before, just my name, without the familiar weight of mom attached to it. Jacob noticed my hesitation. What? You don't like it? I tilted my head, considering it. No, I admitted, smiling. I think I do. And just like that, something shifted between us. Not in a way that erased who we were to each other, but in a way that made me feel seen. Not just as their mother, but as me. We left the club late, the warm night air wrapping around us as we made our way back to the hotel. I had indulged in one too many glasses of limoncello, my head light, my steps unsteady. Jacob and Will walked on either side of me, their hands ready to catch me if I stumbled. All right, I think I need my bed, I murmured, laughing softly as we reached our suite. Will opened the door while Jacob helped me inside. You had fun though, right? I turned to face them both, my heart full. I had the best time. And I meant it. The days in Capri felt like a dream, an escape from reality, a bubble of happiness where time slowed down and all that mattered was the present. We spent our mornings exploring the winding streets, discovering hidden alleyways lined with ceramic shops and family-owned cafes. In the afternoons, we basked in the Mediterranean sun, dipping into the clear blue waters and letting the waves carry our laughter across the sea. Jacob and Will made sure I didn't lift a finger. Bianca, you're on vacation, Will reminded me when I reached for the check at lunch. Yeah, Jacob added with a grin. For once, let us take care of you. It felt strange at first, being the one cared for instead of the one doing the caring. But I let them. And it felt good. That night, after our evening at the club, something shifted between us. Not in a way that erased our history as mother and sons, but in a way that made our bond feel different. More like friends, equals, sharing an adventure together. They kept calling me Bianca, and I let them. I wasn't just their mother here. I was a woman, enjoying life, laughing with my boys, feeling young and carefree in a way I hadn't in years. You were amazing on that dance floor, Jacob said as we sat on the balcony of our hotel suite, the city lights twinkling below us. Will nodded. Seriously, Bianca. You outdanced everyone. I laughed, swirling my glass of wine. I told you I still had it. The warm night breeze wrapped around us, carrying the scent of salt and citrus. We sat there for hours, talking about everything and nothing, reminiscing about childhood memories and sharing new dreams. You know, I said, looking between them, this might be the best trip I've ever taken. Will raised his glass. To many more. Jacob clinked his glass against mine. To Bianca. We toasted under the stars, the moment settling into my heart like a cherished secret. I had always been their mother. But here, in this magical place, I was something more. I was simply me. And that was enough. The days passed in a golden haze, each one more perfect than the last. We explored the Blue Grotto, its shimmering waters casting an ethereal glow around us as our boat rocked gently beneath the limestone ceiling. We hiked the Path of the Gods, winding through cliffs that overlooked the endless stretch of the Mediterranean, stopping only to catch our breath and marvel at the beauty around us. And in the evenings, we simply enjoyed each other's company. One night, as we sat on the terrace of our hotel, sipping wine under the twinkling Capri sky, Jacob sighed and leaned back in his chair. I don't think I've ever been this relaxed in my life. Will nodded, stretching his arms behind his head. Yeah, we needed this. I smiled, watching them both. I needed this too. More than I realized. It had been years since I had felt this light, this free. The burdens of everyday life, the responsibilities, the loneliness I had never fully admitted to myself, had all melted away under the warmth of the Italian sun and the love of my two incredible sons. We should do this more often, Jacob said suddenly, turning to me. Not just a trip every few years. I mean actually take time for each other. Will smirked. You saying we're not good sons, Jacob? Jacob rolled his eyes. I'm saying Mom deserves this. She deserves to be happy, to enjoy life, to have people take care of her for once. My throat tightened at his words. You two already do more than enough, I said softly. Will shook his head. Not even close. I love you both more than you'll ever know. Jacob smiled. We know, Bianca. Will chuckled. And we love you too. We stayed like that for a while, letting the moments settle, letting the love between us fill the quiet spaces. Capri had given us more than just a vacation.